Hello guys and welcome to another video. Before we get started with it, I want to say the next. I am not a financial planner nor a financial advisor. I am not FCA approved. I'm not approved by any institution that allows me to give financial nor investment advices. Nothing mentioned in this video should be considered investment advice or guidance. Everything shown, talked, and explained is for pure and only educational purposes. The risk is on your own hands. Enjoy. Hello guys, good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, September 28th. I'm going to be talking about today's results, today's trades, today's price action, and pretty much everything that I find interesting that happened on EU today. We'll begin with 15-minute structure, which as you will see, price reacted to only two areas that I had in mind on early in the morning, right? Which is basically this area that we have here, which ended up respecting it, and then the lower area that I'll show you in just a second if I can. Oh, here it is. So we're talking this area, right, which price ends up respected basically, and then we have all the way to the left this thing here, right? So you'll see in just a few minutes, just a few seconds actually, that I refined it down to a 5-minute candle. We have somewhere around here, right? But I basically drew both of those areas, and I think even one more. Now, something that I wanted to begin with is that, as you can see, we have this structure, which basically I've talked about it a couple of times. That when you go up, that same price action that you left on the left will be basically mitigated, and each and every single area that was left unmitigated will probably not cause much of a reaction, or if it does, it'll be probably just a small retracement, right? So as an example, on this move down, right, we left a couple of areas that were left unmitigated, such as this, and probably even this, right? As you can see, when price starts to push up, price reacts to this, but as a retracement. Then we get up to this area, we react as a small retracement or pullback, just to basically gather a couple of more orders and then continue to go higher. We get here, I think we might break it. We do break it, but we basically do consolidate close to the area, right? And then we continue to push up. We get to this area, then we break it, barely, but we do consolidate, go up, right? And then we reacted to something a little bit stronger that basically causes a major pullback to then again continue to go higher, right? And that same thing occurs the other way around, right? Because when we were taking all of the structure that was left unmitigated within this move, right, we've now created the same exact move, but on the right, sorry. Right, so all of these areas that were left unmitigated on the left are now areas that might cause somewhat of a reaction, but probably or likely to do it as a small retracement or pullback. Right, so this area is an example. You'll see price gets here, fails, basically causes a reaction, fails to hold. We then react to maybe this whole thing, right? Small reaction, but then falls. We then react to, well, nothing in this case. Here we do have this small range that we have on the 2-hour. Reacts, fails to hold, right? Then a little bit lower, we react to this, right? Here, small pullback, and then continuation to the downside. So I wanted to show that first because today we see that same pattern was basically finished, although we should have broken the low, which I think we haven't just yet. But on the 15-minute, you can see that we had pushed up, right? We pushed up. And now we have been pushing up since since the beginning of September actually, and we've been taking all of those lows that were left unmitigated, right? We have an unmitigated area here. Price comes back up, cause a reaction, fails to hold. Same thing here, right? To the right, could call that whole thing as a range. Reaction, fails to hold. All the way down to this, well, maybe this whole thing or maybe the whole range as it is does cause a reaction here and here, right? Small pullback, continue it down. Have a range here that, as you can see, price does respect this, fails to hold later, right? And now we were reacting to basically this extreme. So just wanted to show that, and I think if you see, well, actually, on yesterday markups, I had this area, which it's the exact same thing. On the move down, we left things unmitigated, right? On this move down that we have here, we left things unmitigated. And as you can see, maybe there was something here in the 1 minute or lower time frames. Price reacts to that, but it's a small pullback, right? And the same thing happened on the way down, okay? So when we got to this area, which was yesterday's price action, we do expect maybe a reaction to happen, but we don't expect that to happen or to cause a major move up. Can it cause it? It definitely can, but it's likely to not do that, right? So small retracement here, and basically same thing happened today, although we're not quite, as we didn't actually break the low, right? So those were my 15 and 5 minute areas, right? This is my 5 minute area here, and well, to the left, you can check it yourselves. It's just a very small area that was left unmitigated, which, as you can see, does cause a pretty strong reaction as soon as it gets there. So today I only took one trade, and that's because it was the first trade of the day and basically ended up with 7R, right? So I think that's good enough to get out of the markets for the day. So the first thing that I see when I get up is that, well, the first thing that I do besides analyzing the 15 and 5 minute structure is check what has happened, right? So basically what I mean with that is that I just get into the charts. These are the clean charts, and I basically start saying, well, price was pushing lower, and what happened next, right? We have lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, a low and a higher high, right? The thing that I identify there is that we have not only changed, well, actually here we had a low, a higher, a lower high that we break, and here we already have an entry, right? The only thing that I didn't like completely about this is that we had left liquidity behind, so something that I was not really a fan of. So when we have this move, we can either consider this a Judas swing, right? So just a strong move against the current trend to just take liquidity and then continue to go lower, or a potential will just move, right? The initiation to a potential trend to the upside in this case, right? So what I see here is that we had left liquidity behind, which is not something really attractive when you're trying to look for buys, but really good when you're trying to look for sells. And this move here, what I expect is this is my confirmed low and this is my confirmed high, okay? So whatever happens in the middle is not really that important, but we do have to pay attention to those details because, as you can see, we had a lot of price action in the middle, right? But what I expect is for one of the two areas to take each other out, right? So when we make this huge move, let's actually go back a little bit. At this point, this is my confirmed high, this is my confirmed low, right? When we cause this, right, this is my confirmed high and this is my confirmed low. And when we break this, we now have confirmed low, confirmed high. So I expect one of the two to take each other. Based on order flow, we could say that we could take the low again, right? But we had a small trend change there that could have led us to basically think that price could continue to go up, right? A small change in order flow there that could either mean a small retracement pullback, right? And then to then continue to go down, or, well, a potential change in trend. And the way that you help yourself to decide if either it's a small pullback or an actual potential change in the trend is where you have to know where are you standing right now. Because as an example, at this point we were within a 15-minute structure, right? Extreme area, and the 5-minute was somewhere around here, right? I'll show the drawings just a second. But basically, it wasn't looking that good for the sells at this point, but it wasn't looking that good at the buys either, because as soon as we tap the area, we start to leave liquidity, which is not something that we're looking for. So having this low and this high, what I was expecting is for price to take each other out. So this move here, what I was expecting for price to do is to go down to somewhat of an extreme area and then continue to go higher, right? But this move here, what I was expecting to happen is for price to go up and break down. Now the thing is that the first move that shows that it's failing, it's this move here, right? Because when it starts to go lower, it fails to break an area, creates some liquidity, goes down, and even fails to break the extreme area, which in my opinion is the one that actually had the most importance at this point, right? So when this schematic starts to fail and not be able to actually break the low, it's not a really good indication for, well, the sells in this case, right? And at that point, that's when I see that price can easily go up, react to something lower, and start to go up, right? So just basing myself on that, I had somewhat of a bias, right? Not only with that, but also with the fact that we were within a 15 and 5-minute structure, or the blocks. So basically, just basing myself on that. Keep in mind that I start trading at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. for me, it's here, right? 8 a.m. minus UTC minus 3, right? The first trade that I see based on this order flow that we have here is the last one. It's the literally last one that we actually get all the way up to to this area, right? And I'll talk about it in just a second. So, the thing is that maybe not on the first, maybe not on the second, probably not on the second, maybe not on the third, but on the fourth, I think you probably could have had a good understanding of what was actually going on here, right? Due to the fact that, well, even though we had left liquidity, this high failed to take the low, and this low was creating order flow to the upside, showing a potential continuation to the upside. At least that's how I identified it early in this morning. So just keeping that in mind, I was looking for buys, but I was also keeping in mind areas like this that, well, I was not expecting price to cause much of a rejection or to cause much of a reaction, but just a small pullback, right? As we were saying, as an example, this exact same thing I was expecting to happen here. When we push down, all of these areas that were left unmitigated, except for the extreme, I wait for them, or I expect for them to cause maybe a pullback, maybe a small reaction, but probably not to make a trend change, unless it is under the extreme, right? So I had the area drawn, but I was really not doing anything, even though we were there already, right? And as you can see, price reaches somewhat of this area, which I think it was a 5-minute candle, and it does react there. But the thing is that we had reacted to that to that 5-minute area as it is already. So I was kind of just looking at this, and to be honest, I was kind of leaning towards just drawing this, but I said, I'm not going to trade this. Let's just draw the whole area, right? And see what happens there. So I placed this trade, right? Not very happy per se about the trade itself, because we had already kind of mitigated the area, but what I was kind of expecting to happen is either price mitigates something here on the extreme, right? The extreme of this area, mitigates this again, or goes for the extreme, which is what I was actually liking the most, right, at this point. So whichever was the case, I was likely to be mitigated and probably not taken out, unless, well, we decided to react to something like this, right, a little bit lower. So yeah, so you can see price worked out pretty well. The first few candles weren't really that good per se, but well, ended up working quite well. We do have that small reaction and also a small trend change there that was a little bit scary, but at that point we were already at break even, so that's nothing for me. It's not that hard for me to watch, as well. At least we're not going to take a loss, and in my opinion, it was a good reaction to an area as important as that one, as extreme as that one, but I was not expecting price to break through that, right? So initial target to this trade here was actually this extreme, right? Because in my opinion, we didn't really have anything, unless, well, small areas like this, right? But everything else from this point up, we really didn't have anything to mitigate but these 15 and 5-minute structures, right? So I drew this area as price was, actually got these screenshots somewhere around here. Yeah. Okay, so this is when I took it on trading view as well. Why is it like that? Okay. But see, I drew that area. I wasn't really liking it, but I wasn't liking it to just to neither to take a trade first of all, because it's really just a small pause, nor to target that area. I was not really expecting much from that area as it ended up occurring, right? And as you can see, causes a small reaction, right? The small reaction even creates an entry and then continues to go lower, breaking a couple of lows. Then we had the news and everything. But the thing is that I decided to close it here because at this point I had a 3.5% profit, right? So it was a really good profit at that point. And the fact that, well, we had caught this trade so early in the morning, I just decided to say, you know what, just close this here. If price does continue to go up, then we'll try to maybe find somewhat of a continuation. But to be honest, I thought that I felt good enough with those profits and decided to close it at that point, right? To be honest, there's nothing that important to say this area could cause a strong reaction as it ended up doing, right? Because it is a pause before this breaks, the breaks of that structure basically. But I wouldn't really consider it that important for it to cause a reaction strong enough to break these lows, right? But well, that's what ended up happening. So it is what it is. So this trade here, at that point, as I said, I was not trading anymore, but I did decide to, of course, will continue to analyze price action as it was happening, and just seeing what I could have traded, what I could have missed out on, and where I could have taken a loss or not on, right? So, yeah, here. So the thing with this trade is that, as I said, this area was not really a strong area, my opinion. So I wasn't really expecting much of a reaction from it. And when we get this small break, I do say, well, this is a supply area, so that's the cost to this trend change, so we can definitely go for it. The only con to this trade is that we are reacting to, well, a supply area, right? And that we have, that we're reacting to a weak, in my opinion, supply area, right? And the fact that, well, we are reacting to a demand area here, right? Respecting it when we break the low. So those were not really good indications, right? But, well, I thought the trade, well, I was not going for the trade, but I thought the trade could have been a good opportunity. But I said it's kind of risky, so I could go for the CE if it ever occurs, right? Well, the CE in this case. But basically, I just didn't like it. At all. The reaction was small. The area was small and insignificant, to call it somehow. But those are things that you have to decide in the moment. Because as an example, I was not expecting price to react to this. I had in mind maybe something like this, or the extreme, or maybe this, right? A little bit stronger areas, right, for price. But basically, well, it reacted to that, so it is what it is. Could have I taken this? I highly doubt it. And after having a take profit like that, I probably would have not not continue to trade, as I didn't continue to trade, but not risk it with trades like this, right? It would have waited for a little bit more confirmation. So what happens next is that price does continue to go down. If I would have traded this, target would have been this as a potential continuation as the, well, sixth trade of the move. But at that point, all of this was already starting to look as liquidity, right? When you go up and you leave the areas and mitigate it, right? Price will come down, again, react to those areas, but as a small retracement, pull back, and they continue to go lower, right? So taking all of this as liquidity. Okay, so yeah, areas here. So at this point, confirmed high, confirmed low. We then have this move, confirmed low, confirmed high, but I wasn't really expecting price to reject neither this nor this, right? At that point, well, it's not that I wasn't expecting them to not react to those, but I wasn't really interested in those areas as the way that they moved was not really strong per se, right? You see a lot of wicks, right? A lot of wicks. Price was rejected here. Then we have a small pullback. Just a lot of rejections. Price just not working out as well as it did well on this move, right? It's a pretty strong move down. So I wasn't really liking this structure as it is. So I said, well, let's just wait for something else. I did like this area for earlier, right? When we have this break, this could have been definitely a good trade in my opinion. But the way that we broke it also kind of scared me away from that trade. We do break the low, right? The demand area that we had caused a reaction on. But basically, the fact that we were so slowly, and not only that, but also a little bit further, just a little bit further, and not like a strong move down, really scared me away from trying to trade this, right? So when price comes all the way back up to this and causes a reaction, and we even have a demand area here that caused this major break to the left, price reacts to it but fails to hold. So that's this break here is the demand to supply flip. That was already a really good trade. The thing is that I was not trading, but I did place a trade. Well, not that I placed a trade. I acted as if I was actually trading this, and basically went for the cost, right? And as you can see, price ended up going for the extreme. So it's just one of those cases where, as an example, not you, but always, you hear that a lot, that euro dollar usually goes for the I forgot the name, for the cause, right? For the cause, for the decisional trade area, sorry, and not for the extreme. And I've kind of come to realize that, well, as an example, here you have this major break to the left, and price didn't go for the decision, just went for the extreme that came from mitigation after mitigation after mitigation, and blah blah blah, right? So I think it's not really much of a euro dollars does this, GBP dollars does that. I think it's more like it depends on the scenario and on what the price action is doing. And sometimes it can react to the extreme, sometimes it can react to decisionals. But yeah, I just came to realize that. And that was because I think it was past. I actually have it somewhere. Oh, yeah, I do have it here. I think it was Tuesday last week. Yeah, I had like three trades that basically did this exact same thing, right? So we had this minor move like this. I was expecting price to go for that. It goes for the extreme, takes this as liquidity, and falls down, right? Or well, the other way around for the buys, right? You can go to Tuesday and you might be able to identify those same trades that I'm talking about. So yeah, I think in this case it made a huge amount of sense to go for the cost. I did not expect price to go a tiny bit higher than that, but well, that's what it did. And here I would have taken a loss, right? But well, thankfully I wasn't trading at this point, so yeah. But it really clean trade, not gonna lie. And target was the liquidity, right? Trying to get to the liquidity. Which would have been 5.56 R. And to be honest, I probably would have just closed it down at 5 R. Not really necessary to go for an extra 0.5 R and risk the whole profit made at that point. Then we had news. When I knew that we had news at that point, I left home. To be honest, I wasn't really interested on waiting for price to, first of all, create a lot of weird structure to then just, create a couple of opportunities for sure, but probably not as clean as I would have wanted to see, right? So yeah. When I come back, it was around 12, so yeah, around here. We had mitigated this, and as you can see, we created that minor high and barely broke it. Then we failed to break the low, which is a really good indication, and we now broke the high again. So this could have been definitely something. I drew it, didn't even think of it, to be honest. The fact that we created liquidity here does look like a good confluence, right? But yeah, not something for me to really consider the trade. I drew it, but didn't say that I was taking it or anything like that, so I can't really say for sure if I would have actually risked my money on it. And being this late, and if I would have taken this trade, I probably would have not gotten into it at any point, right? But well, yeah, it is what it is. Target, I did draw the target, which was this, because if you think about it, we have move down, mitigate this, move down, mitigate that, move down, we do not get to mitigate this, move down, we mitigate this, and we then didn't really create much areas. So this is mitigated, all of this is mitigated, so the only area that a price could react to if it wanted to react to something will be that one, right? So yeah, that's why I drew that area, and yeah, could have gone to try to take the high, but to be fair, I don't think price should do that, keeping in mind the order flow that we've been creating lately, right? I don't think price should do that, but well, you never know for sure. So wanted to make a video today because price action, as you can see, and again, it was kind of not clean. Well, not clean, but basically it ranged a lot, right? It ranged a lot, and 29. Oh yeah, 29. Look clean. Okay. As you can see, if we go to the 5, we don't really have anything. I mean, we really moved sideways. We do have an impulse up, impulse down, but that's pretty much it, right? And same thing here, right? And I think given this price action is for, well, 24th, so past Friday, yeah. And yeah, I mean, we had a couple of ranging days, right, which is not really good. But if you really focus on price and talk to yourself, really looking at each candle and saying each move and thinking what could happen next based on structure, based on bias, based on this, based on that, based on how price is moving, how strong it moves from one side to the other. Paying attention to as many details as you can really can lead you to have the highest probability bias, right? Just basing yourself on, well, the structure and in experience, right? Because as an example, there are things that, well, I look at and I think, okay, so just looking at price action, I could say, okay, so what I think based on my experience to for the highest probability to happen next is this or that, and that's based on, well, time in front of the charts, right? And I think that's not something that you learn from one day to the other, but just putting in the hours, getting up every morning, and, well, just looking at its charts, at the very least looking at its charts and trying to, well, analyze as much as you can, of course. So I think that's pretty much it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video, hope you enjoyed the markups, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow again.